I had a list of people that were the people that want to speak. Please come towards the front. We have a number of people that wish to. I'll call first. Chick Lawson, would you like to go first? Okay. So we're asking people that would like to speak about health issues that they have their concerns about to please come forward at this time. Thank you.
I don't know how well this shows up. That is a wildflower that was plucked up by a stream by Mr. Walter Duncan outside of the plant. And as you can see what he did, he laid that on an x-ray plate and it developed perfectly. And you can see the bottom of the roots look like a light bulb. That's where it's drawing up the radiation. And you can actually see the radiation going through the veins of the flower all the way up into the petals. That's what you are eating, folks. That's what the deer that you hunt are eating. That's what the rabbits, the squirrels, the birds, the fish are consuming this. And then we are consuming it. And that brings back to one thing I want to state real quick is I was warned that I should shut up about this from people that's working at the plant. They're afraid I'm trying to stop their jobs, and I'm not. I want the place cleaned up, but I want it done safely with tenting, like they had to do at Hanford, like they have to do at Oak Ridge. Just because we're Appalachians don't mean we're less people. We've got some very brilliant people from this area. One of them he runs the Star Wars program, graduated from Valley High School. But that's basically all I want to say about them. One other thing. Now, there was a study done out in Berkeley when all this plutonium stuff started out. And if you look that study up, you will find that it takes 1/1,000,000th of a gram of plutonium to cause fatal cancer. But there's a latency period. Young children, you're looking 4 to 10 years before the cancer will show. On an adult, you're looking 10 to 15 years before the cancer shows. This is an example of one of the pathways coming in. Now, what I want to show you now on the slides, I was asked to testify to Ohio EPA hearing. It was a sworn testimony. I submitted documents that shows that they have done criminal acts. Now, some of my slides actually overlap Dr. Ketter's slides, and I apologize for that. But you're going to see some of the routes of how some of this material came into the area, which the people here need to know that. You go ahead and show the first one. Yeah, you can turn the lights down now. No, turn it down. Or okay, this is from the. This is a letter I had to send to Ohio EPA Max Moore in Columbus. What that is, when I testified, I spoke about some documents, other documents that I had, the ones that I had not brought. And so they wanted to know if I would send them, which I did, and I sent them the full reports. Some of these reports can be anywhere from 300 to 500 pages long and very thick. So I didn't copy 300 to 500 pages for Saul to read. So what I basically did was put like the front of the cover and a little bit of the meat on a page where it's at, where you can find it. So let's go to the next one. This is the document which he's already showed. This is my house. Okay. Now people say, well, how bad is it in your house? The levels of my house would be equal to what's used in a light water reactor. They have found Neptunium-237. They have found traces of plutonium. They have found enriched uranium, U-234, U-235, 36, and 38 in my house. How has this affected me? It's affected me horribly. I've had 2 cancers, which I did work at the plant. And just so everybody knows, Jeremy Davis, bless his heart, DOE, he at a meeting over at the Northwest School, when I did a radio show at WNXT, it got the people fired up over there. Basically, they referred and told them that I was just a guard, but I actually was a safety officer, been through process school. I've been through Bicon School. It's one of the top radiation schools in the country. I've been through 12 to 14 other radiation classes that I had to study and pass. I was a safety officer, and I was also the OSHA investigator for the plant, licensed investigator. So I have an extensive background in radiation, studying radiation, things of that nature. My house right now, I have a son who has a tumor in the center of his brain. My daughter has a tumor that wraps completely around her spine and her nervous system. My wife now has thyroid issues, severe thyroid issues. 3 of my dogs have died from unusual cancers: breast cancer, rectal cancer, and bone cancer. The thyroid, that is indicative of the technetium-99. The bone cancer, that could be that is most likely from the plutonium, because plutonium is a bone seeker on these issues. So that's how it's affecting me. And now, just so you'll know, since they tested my house is now worth nothing. 0. I cannot sell my house. I was actually planning to sell it. Now I can't. Let's go to the second one. Okay, this is an investigation, independent investigation done in 2000 that they requested. Go to the next page. Okay, go on up. Down, I'm sorry, down. Steve, what happened here? Okay, there it is. Okay, right there. This is the problems. There's 17 problems listed here. Everything from management to radiation problems, how they're doing their business, and it's not good. Matter of fact, when they got the licensure for United States Enrichment Corporation, I think it was close to what, 300 million that they spent trying to be able to get up to the bar where they could run it, and they couldn't pass it. That it finally had to be given to them because their work was so bad. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, this is volume 1. Somehow these got mixed up. And I think when we go to page, I think it's 80. Oh, I think you got did you give him yours? No. Did you get the one out of the, something's not working right on it. No, page 83 of that report, and it's the venting. Okay, on page 83 of that report, I don't know what happened to this. Somehow that's got the wrong one in it. But it's the right report. What it is, they had what they term, DOE uses a lot of code words because they don't want the workers in the community to understand what it is they're really doing. One of those code words is midnight rockets. Now, we're not talking about 4th of July. What they did is they have a trap system throughout the process buildings. So what they did, on midnight shift, they would take and they say, we need to release midnight rocket. So what they would do a bleed down. And then after they did the bleed down, they would open all the valves up. And what they done was extend the piping so it would go up into the upper atmosphere. And they put in what's called a jet air express system. And it sounds, I was in the Air Force, it sounds a lot like a T-39 jet when you start it up. It's that loud. So they were blowing this material up to the upper atmosphere, and it's going 4 directions, not just primary east to west type direction that we normally see in the area. But that is called midnight rockets. Let's go to the next one, see what it does. Okay. This here, draft. This is Burns and Road report. This is another independent investigation on the plant. They're trying to get ready for privatization. Go to the next one. No, you're going backwards for some reason. Right here. Well, these are out of order for some reason. I don't know why. This is the 95 Lawrence Livermore study. And if you can move that down a little bit, it shows right there. This is what Dr. Keller was talking about. I was the ocean investigator. So Lawrence Livermore, when I watched them take the samples, I asked them, I said, can you send me the results? So they sent me the raw data points that they collected. And as you can see, all the transuranics are in there. And there's one thing different about this report than DOE's report. You see polonium on this? Yes. When you read DOE's report, you don't see polonium. Why? Because it came from Russian feed. They didn't want people to know we were running their material. And you can see DOE, the reason I'm showing this, DOE is still telling people, oh, it's allowable levels. There's really no plutonium out here. Okay, go on, please. Next one. This one here, going up a little bit. The reason I'm showing this, where you see that stamp on the bottom, I took this to the Scioto County Commissioners to show them the transuranics that are in our area that they produce, that they release to the atmosphere and water, and it's getting into soil. When we tried to present this, they threw us out of the meeting. They basically said if we didn't leave, we were going to be escorted out by the sheriff's department. So we sat outside. So I would not give them it because they would not allow us to present it to them in the meeting. So that's got their stamp on it. They didn't get it because they threw us out. Okay, next one. Okay, this is a letter to William Richardson. And you can see it's got Mike DeWine's name on the bottom and George Voinovich. They say there was no plutonium, that the plutonium's not there. See what they're discussing? It says 1985, the undiluted plutonium that was brought to the Portsmouth for handling. We were processing pure plutonium. They never told anybody. Now, why wouldn't they tell us? Because that changes all of our safety parameters. You had to have special equipment. You had to have special handling. You had to have special testing. Plus, we weren't set up to run that in the process system. The process system was set up just to enrich uranium. So like Michael said earlier, when this stuff gets in there, it causes all kinds of problems. That's why I put that on there. Mike DeWine knew it. Now, what's interesting about that, they had a meeting here in 99. This was in, I think, August. And then the 99 meeting, it was in September, if I remember correctly. So he knew about it then, but this never was brought out in the 99 meeting that they knew this plutonium had been shipped in. So go to the next one. Okay, that's document 3. Okay, go on down, go to the next one. I don't know what's happening here. The HETA report. That HETA report, that was done by John Cardarelli and Stephen Aaron-Holtz. They are NIOSH officials down in Cincinnati. They use them a lot. I had requested for them to come in. I'm not a nuclear physicist. I don't pretend to be. So what they did was assist me doing investigations, basically, excuse me, on neutrons and the problems we're having. We come to discover that all the time that plant ran, they never counted the neutron exposure. They only counted alpha, beta, and gamma. So when they did that, that changes the parameters. And I'll give you an example. They reported our badges at like 0.027, 0.028 millirem. When in reality, when I went through Bicron school, we used the actual read sheets. We were finding, and we tested the badges, our dosimeter badges that measure the radiation every quarter. So basically what was happening was we were getting between 2.8 to 3.5 rem a quarter. Now, the problem with that, by law, under OSHA standards and DOE standards and NRC standards, you're not allowed to receive over 5 rem in a calendar year. Once that happens, they would have to send you home for 1 calendar year, but you got paid your full wages. That wasn't going to happen. So nobody ever went over 5 rem. The documents, I filed a OSHA complaint. We had an OSHA hearing. Lockheed Martin then took all of the records and threw them through a wood chipper. All 40 years worth of radiation records were totally destroyed. The reason they destroyed them, because they knew they were going to be sued because of the exposures. My body burden, myself, right now, and Dr. David Menuda helped figure this out. He's the one that did it for me. With my exposures, I was getting between 6.8 to right at 12 rem a year. So I worked there for 15 years, and after I turned them in for all the falsification, they had me medically retired because I got hurt out there. But when I left after 15 years, my body burden, alpha, beta, gamma, and neutron, 240 rem. 50 rem is your maximum lifetime. 300 rem, you start dying. So it's sort of strange. If I have to have an MRI because I've had 2 cancers and things like that, I say, what's my dose? Oh, don't worry about it. It's minimal. I said, no, I really need to know what my dose is, whether or not I decide or not to have this test. But I have to watch those things. So they also, in this, again, Washington, D.C., see where it says bad practice? That was put in by, I think her name, Donna Shalea, that she was over to CDC at the time. She says, do not use the word criminal or illegal. They made them remove it from the report and write bad practice. He told me that himself, personally. So again, it's a code word. Slow cooker is a code word. That means subcritical reaction. In other words, it's not high enough to flash blue where everybody falls over dead. Now, how does that affect us as workers? Because in the vaults that we guarded, the weapons grade, the 97% assay for nuclear warheads, we were having a subcritical reaction. And we did not know that. They withheld that information from us. But what they did do was take what they called a background badge. So that background badge was reading the levels of radiation in that vault. Now, my badge is coming up almost the same as what the background badge is, but it's not really background. That's an actual read. But what they would do when they would read the badge, they would subtract their background badge from our dose. And that way, your dose was always low. So that's why I put that in there. Go to the next one. Yes.
We have some other people that may have to leave. So if we could put you on hold and have you come back so we could make sure that everybody has a chance to come up and talk before they have to leave. Because I know it's been a long day and we appreciate people being here and staying. So I want to see now, Chick, we want to invite Chick to come back up and finish your talk and tell your story, please. Chick Lawson.
Not only that was that plutonium, and like Vina said, if you look at the 1999 Comfort Inn meeting with David Michaels, in there he states that they were processed, they were bringing in plutonium-laced material in 1953 and 54. That again was never told to the unions. And also you'll find that there was also the report, the Tiger Team report, when they were trying to get ready for, and that was on that one thing I had, but I don't know what happened to it. But basically what it was, on page 10 of that slide, it shows part of the Tiger Team report, and it's got a big X in it, okay? And I'm not here to fight with any union. I'm just saying facts. When they brought that draft in, what they said was, they said, we can't have that in report because it was some of our people helped your salary people wire around the radiation alarms. So all the seals were leaking. They could not duplicate, repair them quick enough. Now, the problem with that is you got people inside these buildings. We're talking 80-foot tall building, over a quarter mile wide, over half mile long. What, 300 and some acres under roof. That material, we were ingesting it. We were breathing it. We were eating it, sucking it in with our mouths. I spent 16 hours a day working in them buildings doing my protection that I was supposed to do. So what's happening is you had giant exhaust fans that run along both sides of all the process buildings. So those exhaust fans are sucking that uranium and transuranics, your heavy metals, that's your plutonium, cesium, americium, and all those things, out again to the atmosphere. And then with the midnight rockets and them jettisoning that to the atmosphere on midnight shift, that was the really bad stuff. So all these things are happening. People say, well, how did that get here? And people, and how can I say it? Think of a hot air balloon. This is the way I described it when I was down at OU. If your wind currents only go east to west, the balloon could only go one way. That's the only way it could go. But if you're a pilot, as my buddy back there is, you know you got different wind currents going different directions everywhere up in the upper atmosphere. Give you an example. If it was always blowing west, you'll hear a jet coming back from California say, oh, we got a good tailwind, we made time today. And you'll hear the Air Force guys say that. Because you have multiple wind currents blowing every different direction. So if you want to go north in that balloon, you go up until you find north, and then where you go. Well, same thing with using this Jet Air Express system that they use to expel these transuranics. That's what happened. And that's why you see it at all the monitors, all the way around the plant. Because of the wind currents, the lower wind current, yes, we have a predominant, but you also have the effect, you got to take in the effect of the hills that surround this area. They're almost like a wind tunnel, and it causes that effect. The Apollo NUMEC affair that he had mentioned, that was something that was involved with the government. They wanted them to have it. And you also have and I don't know if Jeff mentioned it, about the gentleman from Taiwan that designed the waste cell system. Okay, that sounds like a great thing, 1,000-year rubber liner, but he didn't know that plutonium had a half-life of 24,100 years. And when I brought that up, he goes, we'll be dead in 1,000 years. I said, but what about our descendants? What about them? He goes, well, I said, are the other ones leaking? Well, we have a problem. And the problem is the groundhogs are burrowing holes through the other ones already at Fernald Mound. So where's that going? It's going out in the water. So that's a problem. I said, he goes, well, we're going to fix that. And I did. I admit I got a little bit smart alecky with him. I said, well, have you contacted Dr. Doolittle? Has he taught you how to speak groundhog? I mean, that's just the way I approached it, because this is stupid. This is stupidity. These are supposed to be scientists. So he goes on. So Jeff asked him, he says, you guys must be making a lot of money off this for you to come from Taiwan. He goes, well, we're doing okay. He says, they are trading the material in the 326 building for the work. Now, I'm just going to speculate. In my opinion, does that mean that Taiwan now has nuclear material to make nuclear weapons? You figure that one out yourself. There's a lot of things going on that the public and the county officials and the state officials do not have a clue. And I'm going to tell you right now, Jeff and I, when he said documents, literally, we probably have close to 6,000 documents, maybe more. We are finding stuff still today. DOE, it's making them crazy because they cannot figure out how we get this kind of information. And we look for it in 2s and 3s. And once we find it 2 times, we know there's going to be a 3rd one there somewhere. And then we'll find out. And that's how we substantiate everything. Most of the records we have that we talk about, they're DOE's records. Just about all of them are DOE records or NRC records. The testimonies. When we went to the FBI on the theft of the special nuclear material, they brought in people to meet with us in Portsmouth at the FBI office there. We gave them a thumb drive of who did it, how they did it, why, the whole bit. And that's when we asked them about the Apollo NUMEC. They'd never heard of it. I said, well, here's that report because I figured you didn't know. And we gave it to them. They'd never seen it before. That's also tied into the Karen Silkwood death from Kerr McGee because they needed plutonium. And plutonium was missing. She got a hold of some documents that she didn't realize what they were. She was taking all these documents to the New York Times, and that's the night she got killed. And I won't go into a whole lot of that, but I've talked with people that know. Jeff and I have made a lot of ties with people within the government that we trust, and they trust us. So some names I do not use. But I will say this. There's a congressman, federal, that has admitted that DOE in a closed-door meeting admitted to him that all Southern Ohio is now radioactive. And it's killing them because they can't figure out how we're getting the information. But I don't know what else we could tell you. And I appreciate County Commissioner being here tonight. But we have, and I'm not from Pike County, I live in Scioto County, but I have taken information to Scioto County. None of them's here. This affects 7 counties. Terry Johnson called his office. He lives in Scioto County. Where's he at? Well, he doesn't represent us anymore because of redistribution. Well, I'm sorry, you should be here anyway. This is about the state. Just because we're Appalachian, that doesn't mean we're stupid or ignorant. And I think it's sort of almost, I look at it as a badge of honor. And he was not joking when he said they referred to us as the ignorant Appalachian hillbillies. And by the way, they say you're illiterate. And my answer to him was, I said, who runs your Star Wars program? He goes, well, I don't know. I said, you should. He's an ignorant Appalachian hillbilly, graduated from Valley High School. He's the top laser scientist in the world. But you think we're all ignorant down here. I said, this is stupid. And you people have no concern. They consider us expendable. Now, that's the term that I learned in the military. I knew I was expendable in the work that I did. But that's the way they look at us. They look at us as expendable. We're considered throwaways. There's no other way to say it nicely. I can say it more colorful, but I don't talk that way. If anybody has any questions they want to ask me, I'll be more than happy to try to answer anything I can on these exposures. Yes, sir.
Have you tried to contact the press at all on any of these stories?
We have contacted, Wall Street Journal did an article on us. It was a full-page article in their environmental section. We have contacted New York Times. We've contacted just about everybody you can think of. But the problem we have, the only one that has stayed tried and true is Channel 12 News. They have come forward on everything. He's taken a lot of bad heat for what he's doing, but he's looking out for the people. He's looking out for the people. And he takes his job serious because he cares about the people that he's reporting to. And I appreciate everything he's done. We've become good friends over the years. This is a hard time for me, and I'm going to be honest with you. It's all I can do right now to keep from crying. Because what they have done to my family, it's really hard for me. I'm watching my daughter, 35 years old, 2 kids, 15-month-old baby, going through cancer. She has a blood clot disorder that now the doctors think from the radiation. She has lived in our house almost her entire life and now lives with us again. Then I watched my son with a tumor in the center of his brain. Folks, that's hard to deal with. And then I have DOE tell me they've got the report on my house and they say it doesn't mean anything. Come down and sleep in my house for a while. They won't do that. They won't come near my house. I'm outside their 6 miles. They don't want to admit to it because it's going to cause them a problem. That ACER that I gave you, what's important about that ACER? Otway, Ohio, is 14 miles southwest of the plant. The levels there at that monitor sets exactly 1 mile behind Northwest School at 13 miles. In my opinion, that school is highly radioactive because the amount of radiation on those monitor reports. If you look at Camp Creek, Ohio, that monitor, right down the road here on 104, you're looking at air, water, and soil samples. If you look at the one thereby between Valley and the prison, you're looking at plutonium and U-234 in the water sediment samples there. They know it's out past that. AML leukemia is a radiation-induced leukemia. That's a fact. Neuroblastoma brain cancer is radiation-induced. That's a fact. That's scientific fact. That's not me saying it. That's people who do the studies on these things. But I see it affecting my kids. I've got a daughter, not only does she have cancer, she has a tumor, if you can imagine, that goes all the way around her spine and her nervous system. Do you know what that does to your system when someone touches you? You feel things a whole lot different than anybody else. And it's not very pleasant. And with her blood clotting disorder that they believe is from the radiation, she's got a blood clot in her brainstem that when it busts, I lose her. It's hard for me to say these things, but people need to know. And now my wife, of almost 37 years, she has thyroid issues. There's no doubt in my mind it's from the technetium-99 because of all, like Dr. Ketterer said, all the monitors, all the way around the plant. Forget that prevailing wind stuff. How did it get to all the monitors that the levels were almost as high? DOE is lying. And I will say that publicly. When I testified at the Ohio EPA meeting, an individual walked up to me and says, Mr. Lawson, you know this is a sworn testimony. I said, I know that. You got court reporters in here. He said, you realize you called DOE a liar? I said, yes, I do. I meant to say that because they are lying. And not only that, I said, you're lying because you took their test results as a fact and you did no test on your own. None. He goes, you can be sued for defamation of character. I said, well, I'm sort of like Bear Rabbit, so just throw me in that thicket. Because I use DOE documents. I said, throw me into it, let's go to court. I said, you think I'm joking? I said, sue me. I'm ready. I've got about 6,000 documents that says that. Jeff and I do. We can show things that people cannot imagine. If we went through everything that we had, and you had the time to sit in here, even 4 hours worth, the things that you will hear, it would look like a Tom Clancy whodunit book because it looks like a conspiracy theory, but it's not. People have died because of the illnesses. What they've done is criminal, and that's what I told Ohio EPA. I said, you're stepping all over misprision of felony here because you have abated and helped them spin the lie. NIOSH, and I'm going to say this, they helped them lie. NIOSH had seen the false logbook and accepted it as real on a prior incident before I went in with them. But when I asked for the real logbook, they pretended that they had never seen it before and found out they had, that Dr. Stephen Ehrenholz had seen that report. Now here's where the criminal part comes in. When they published their findings, they did not mention those false logbooks. They did not mention the false readings on the dosimeter badges. To me, that's criminal. It's supposed to be unbiased investigation. Now, I will say this, and this is what their people said in the meeting. It's not in our purview. And I said, well, I understand what purview mean. I worked as a federal officer. And I said, but it is in your purview just the same as it is in OSHA. When you find a criminal act, you are supposed to stop your investigation. That's the law. Then you call in the appropriate authority. If it's a state problem, then you bring in the state police, whoever it is that's going to investigate. If it's federal, like at our site, it would be the FBI. Or on the arson case, it would be probably U.S. Marshal or ATF, because they usually do the marshals, that type of investigation. They didn't do that. They said, oh, it's not in our purview, we don't care. They didn't care that they destroyed 40 years worth of radiation records. That's illegal. By law, they have to keep them for 30 years and 1 day. At day 30 years and 2 days, they can destroy that one paper. These are things that we're telling you. Don't believe what they say until you start researching their own records, because they lie and they don't care. They're not held accountable, and that's the problem I have. They are never held accountable for their lies or what they tell people. Just like these kids being sick. You don't hear them saying with Jeremy Davis and all them getting up and say, well, the cesium's from a smoke detector that somebody threw in the creek. Oh, give me a break. And then to say, well, it's all fallout. Michael knows it's not. I knew it wasn't. I seen their reports. Now, I'm not as smart as Michael, and I'm even going to go there because he's a brilliant man. But I can read. I'm not the illiterate person they say I am. But if anybody else has any other questions, I'll try to answer them. Okay. That's it for me.
Okay, well, this concludes our marathon forum for today. And thank you for all of those who have stayed this long. I do want to say that the United States Office of Workers' Compensation Programs have paid out $1.2 billion for claims of Portsmouth workers and family members as of October 2022. But only 1 in 4 applications were accepted by the Department of Energy for each person receiving payments. So for each person that received a payment, there's 3 that have been denied. So, and there's no mechanism of compensation for the residents that are living off site, only for the workers there. So this is true for other nuclear sites as well. And I'd like to mention that Thursday, June 15th, there's going to be a meeting on the reutilization of the Portsmouth facility at Waverly Health Department. And that's at 1 p.m., same time next Saturday as this was this Saturday. The address there is 116 South Market Street in Waverly. So we encourage people, everybody who's still watching on YouTube, and those who are here to attend, or hopefully that will be recorded and you can watch that for those that are on YouTube. Okay, so it's Thursday, June 15th, a week from today, at the Waverly Health Department, and the address is 115 South Market Street in Waverly.
Let me add one thing. She talked about the payout. Here's a problem with this payout with the Department of Labor. They are committing insurance fraud. And I mean that literally, because Jeff and I, and Paul, we filed a first purveyor on that. When we discovered how many were turned down, and the reason they're turned down is because they destroyed our records at the plant. When NIOSH came in to do the assessment to try to re-figure out what we made, they said, what do you make here? And DOE told them, well, we only make 3 to 5% assay now, because everything else wasn't running. That was a lie. They knew we made 97% assay. So they based their findings of radiation on 3 to 5% assay. Now the pipes were still full. you're having massive subcritical reactions in all the buildings, which is throwing off massive amounts of gamma and neutron. They didn't figure that. So, and it's called, the system they use is called Monte Carlo configuration. That's what they use to figure out the odds on Super Bowl, horse races, and everything else. And that's what NIOSH uses to figure out our dose rates. That's why there's so many turndowns. Yes.
Huntington, Oak Ridge, and Paducah is an SEC site. They are not even supposed to be doing dose on these workers because they destroyed our records, they didn't keep records. And so when you die or your family dies, they're redosing all these people. One guy, they dosed his mother at 29%. 3 months later, they dosed her at 12%. But they're not supposed to be dosing these pipes and workers because we are a special exposure profile. And NIOSH knows that. And every time I call NIOSH for some of these workers, they say, oh, you're not a special exposure cohort. I said, ask Denise Roth. So I called her up and told her what was going on here and gave her 4 or 5 workers to caution here, and they're not responding back to the workers.
But that's just something I want to add. This to me is insurance fraud. And it could be proven. I don't have the money to do it, but it could be proven by pulling the records. And that's why we filed the first purveyor on it. And with the Justice Department, Department of Labor, Department of Energy. So that has been filed through us. So,
Chair,
yes,
on Tuesday, I went to the pulmonologist for my COPD.
yes.
She added a new medication for me. It was supposed to go through my white card, Department of Labor card. And I went to CVS today to see why they hadn't told me it was ready. They went in there and said the DOL was declining filling the prescription for the new breathing medicine. So I know I got to check that out, so I know what's going on. But
Well, under their new system now that they've come up with, some of these things have to be pre-approved. Give you an example, because I'm on oxygen 24/7. I have beryllium disease. It took me 10 years fighting them to get for my beryllium disease. My lungs are impaired at 74%. Basically, I'm going to die if I live long enough. I will suffocate to death. That's what's going to happen to me. That's a fact. But the oxygen affects my eyes. It dries my eyes out. So I have to buy a special drops. It's $600 for those drops. Sometimes $900. Depends on where they get it from. I can't afford that. So what I have to do, the Department of Labor won't pay for it. I have to get it pre-approved every 6 months to get that. This is like the medicines for my oxygen. I'm on 3 different types of inhalers and different airway disease medicine. And with my oxygen and everything, we're looking probably, I looked at the bill one time and figured out, it's almost $4,000, just a little under $4,000 a month. I couldn't afford to pay that. I couldn't do it. Not being, no longer working. My insurance won't cover it. And that's the only thing that's keeping me alive. I probably should say that because now I'll probably stop it.
on my Medicare card.
Yeah.
DOL wasn't going to pay for it.
But that's probably why you have to get the doctor to write a new special approval, and they have to approve it. That's what happened with me on a couple of my new ones.
Just an inhaler called Delaware, which you probably have.
My Spiriva, I think it's $900 for the Spiriva that I have to use. That's a lot of money for an inhaler. Anybody else? Okay.